All right, couple of quick things. First off, this is a huge room, and my camera can't fit all of you, so I have to do a quick video. But I not only want to show everybody on my enormous social media platform that there are huge numbers of people here, but I want to show them your energy. So I want to see you. I want to hear you. I want arms. I want whatever. Just be, act natural like you normally would. Right? Okay, are you ready? All right, and action. My God, the 1619 Project just crapped their pants. That was fantastic. Well done. All right, now I know you're going to oh, Larry, why are you doing this to me? It's because I'm evil. But I have been told that you are not loving your neighbors enough. Now, come on, there are empty seats, and we truly do need to get everybody in here. There are people standing in the back, so if you can just slide one more into an empty seat that you've got. Otherwise, if you have an empty seat next to you, we're going to think that you brought your imaginary friend, and we're going to call the authorities because you might have issues, right? Exactly. All right. So hold your hand up if you have an empty. Who are you, lady? What are you doing to tell me what to do? Thank you, Kamala Harris, coming in here yelling at us. Sorry. That was easy. I'm kidding. That's right. No, she's in California now anyway, Yeah, raise your hand if you have an empty seat, and then we will fill it with a stranger. What could go wrong there? All right, are we good? Am I done with feet silling? Feet silling. I love waking up early. Are we done with seat filling duty here? Are we good? Are we good? Arms up, empty seat. Excellent. Well, good. This is amazing. So here we are. It's opening day of NFL, and you're all here. That tells us something about how important this is. Also tells us something about the state of the NFL right now. By way of introduction, once again, my name is Larry O'Connor. I'm on. Please. It's ridiculous. That's silly. Thank you. I am on your neighborhood radio station, WMAL, where we talk about what matters most to you. And for many years now, we have been talking about what brings us all here together today. It's a great honor to do a local show. It's so funny. I've been on radio at WMAL for 9 years now, and I love it, and it's fantastic, and I've done mornings and I've done afternoons, and this is the most important area to do talk radio because of the nation's capital and because of how smart you all are, you listeners and callers and participants, because you know what's going on. And also the people who are listening, either elected officials, people who work in the government, people who are staffers, people who are contractors, people who are military. In fact, if there is anyone here who is either active duty or a veteran of the United States military, can you please let us know by standing? Because we want to give you our love right now. On this, the week that we honor the 20th anniversary of the terrorist attacks on our nation of September 11th, it is that much more fitting for us to sit and recognize and acknowledge the sacrifice, not just of those 3,000 innocent souls that day, but all of the Americans who raised their hand and said, yes, I want to fight this fight. And despite what you might hear, and frankly, sadly, despite what your children might be taught this week in school, the fight is not over, and the fight is real, and there is a very real enemy, and we must continue to fight that fight. So thank you very much for all of you for sacrificing your time in the military. But back to radio, because that's the more important issue, clearly. But with all of you in this audience, it's the best city to do talk radio, and I've had the honor of doing the morning show here, getting you all to work, and then the afternoon show, getting you home from work, and and that was during the Trump presidency. So it's like, well, what happened today? Well, let me start, all right? Because a lot happened every day. And people often, will say, well, gosh, God, when are you going to have a national show? And the fact of the matter is, this is more important than a national show. This is a really, really important job that Vince has in the afternoon, what I have in the morning, what the great Chris Plant has from 9 to noon, right? He is a national voice, but you know that he's talking about what happens right here in our area. And when I have the opportunity to talk to you every morning, I feel like it's a special obligation knowing that Dan Bongino and Mark Levin and Chris Plant and Ben Shapiro and all of my great colleagues, and God bless him up until a few months ago, the incredible, legendary Rush Limbaugh, knowing that they were going to tackle national issues in a way that I couldn't even come close to, I took it not only as an obligation, but a privilege to talk about what's going on in our community. Rush is not necessarily every day going to talk about what's going on in the Fairfax County School District. So we took it upon ourselves to talk about Fairfax and talk about Montgomery County and talk about Prince George's County and talk about Washington, D.C. And, well, Loudoun, you guys are fine. We don't have to worry about you. So we kept talking about... Who knew? But we've been focusing on this idea that sadly too many Americans, too many conservatives, frankly, think that, well, all we have to do is win the White House. All we have to do is get a guy in the Oval Office in the White House to nominate the right judges, and everything will work out. It's funny, our founders never thought of it that way, did they? They didn't want us to live and die by who the president was. They wanted us to focus all our energies on what's going on in our neighborhoods. What's more important, who lives in the White House or what's going on in your house and in your neighborhoods and in your schools? And let's just be clear here, because Chardonnay Antifa, they want to shut us up. They want to keep us quiet. Boy, they hate the fact that you show up at their meetings, because they think these school board meetings are their meetings, that you dare to show up at their meetings and voice your opinion. Well, let's just be clear here. These are our schools. By every possible definition, they are our schools because these are our children in our schools. But they are also our schools because we are paying for these schools. And we have every right and obligation and responsibility to say what goes on in our schools. And I do love all of the school board members that say, hey, we don't have a voice here. We just have to do what Richmond tells us. Do you remember them saying that when they ran for school board? When they were raising all that money and sending you all those emails and pushing all of those mailers to you, junking up your mailbox with all the flyers? Vote for me. I'll do whatever Richmond tells me to do. Thankfully, we have an opportunity now to change things in Richmond as well, and that's why you're here tonight. But I want to say one more thing, otherwise this will just become a Larry O'Connor WMAL rally. I want to say one more thing because I hear this a lot. I've been talking about our schools, if you have been paying attention, for many, many years now, and God bless the people of Loudoun County, the parents and the taxpayers. You know what's funny? Now Dan Bongino and Tucker Carlson and Mark Levin, and if Rush Limbaugh were still with us, and let's face it, he is still kind of still with us, he would be talking about Loudoun County Public Schools right now because of you. But when I talk about this a lot, then the one great thing that we do on WMAL is you get to have a voice. You will always have a voice on our radio station as long as we have a First Amendment. You can't call Anderson Cooper and tell him why he's full of crap. But you can... I get calls a lot saying, listen, I homeschool my kids. I've got my kids in parochial school. I've got my kids in private school. If parents are still so stupid that they're going to put them in the government-run schools, well, that's their problem. They get what they're doing. It's not my problem. No. First of all, way to be a member of a community. Secondly, I mentioned you're paying for these schools, right? When we started government-run education in this country, we had a simple notion. Go back, read the text, read what was spoken of about our public schools when we as a nation decided that we would go off on this experiment and do government-funded public education. One of the key components of that was to produce good citizens. good, patriotic citizens who love this country and understand our country's real history. That's why we decided to do this. Maybe your kids or your grandkids aren't in these schools. I get that. You've covered your kids. But who are you going to hire for your business? The product of these schools. Who's going to move into the house next to you? The product of these schools. What kids out there are influencing your kids when they go out to a pizza joint or to a movie? The product of these schools. This is the most essential issue we as citizens should be caring about, and thank God you're all out here doing it. Thank you so much. Now I've gone on way too long. But I have. We have to break for traffic and weather every 10 minutes. First on the fives. Let's go to the Hadid carpet cleaning, see? You know what's funny? I do that for, real fast. I'm going off the agenda again, Ian. This is what I do. This is what you get for having me up here. Hadid carpet cleaning, Zero Res carpet cleaning, Sarah and Debbie Reynolds, the Reynolds team, PAI Medical Virginia, Bethesda Sedation Dentistry, EMP 180 Weight Loss, Abish Financial Services. I can go out, and you're all laughing because you know that these are the people that I endorse. How do you know that? Well, and because I repeat it. See, there is power in repetition. And don't think that just showing up at one school board meeting and speaking your mind for that 1 minute that they barely tolerate you, and then you can go home and watch a football game, that you've done your duty, that you've done what you need to do. Don't think that showing up at one community meeting or at this event or even making a donation, and please do make donations, don't think that that's enough. There's a reason why you hear the same guests often talking about various angles on the same topic on our stations. There's a reason why you know everybody that sponsors our program, because repetition is how you learn. Repetition is how you get the message out. And we cannot give up this fight. If we are going to fight any fight, it's this fight for our children and for our schools and for our communities, and therefore the building block of our country. So it's not one speech, it's not one meeting. This is an ongoing concern, and God bless you for being a part of that. Am I allowed to say God? I can say God, right? God's okay? All right. Oh, good, because I'm very proud to introduce the gentleman who will give us our invocation. And it's to God. Imagine that. Pastor Jonathan Avendando from Iglesia Maná del Cielo. Jonathan?
God bless you. If we could bow our heads and dedicate this moment to the Lord, because no matter how much we fight, no matter how much we speak, God has the last word. And when God's hand is in something, trust me, the walls of Jericho will fall. Father in heaven, we pray now in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. We begin with gratitude that you have gifted us the example how important it is to hold on to our beginnings and our principles. In this way, we teach and pass down these very things that bring us pride, but also humbleness of who we are as a people and as a nation. Your holy scriptures say in Proverbs 22:6, to train up a child in the way he should go. Even when he is old, he will not depart from it. And we ask now that you help us in wisdom and in grace to prepare the road for the generation that are right behind us, to teach the truth of who we are, and that this nation is a nation founded on biblical principles and in faith, and return our generations to trusting in you. We are all one, and this we will stand on. To our children, we will show in our teachings, our attitude, and our actions that the United States of America has been and always will be an exceptional nation whose people have always strived to form a more perfect union based upon our founding principles, our biblical principles. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. God bless you.
Amen. Amen to that. Real fast, Cornerstone First Financial, DraftKings Sportsbook, and New Look Home Design. I didn't want to leave anyone out. Joining us now is a group of young students from Loudoun County Public Schools to deliver the Pledge of Allegiance while they still can. Don't get it wrong.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thanks. Thanks, David. They got it right. All right. Very happy to bring forward to you a couple of gentlemen who sort of have been able to sort of crystallize and harness this energy, focus it, and make it, frankly, shoot like a Saturn. Well, Saturn rocket's too dated. How about Elon Musk's rocket? Straight into outer space. From 1776 Action, Adam Waldeck, and right here in Loudoun County, Fight for Schools, Ian Pryor. Gentlemen.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for coming very much. Everybody got in. It was a little bit dicey at first, but glad everybody got here. My name's Adam Waldeck, the president of 1776 Action. We launched our organization back in March with help primarily from our main speaker tonight, Dr. Carson, as well as Speaker Newt Gingrich, both of whom lended their voices to our cause. I want to explain really why we're here tonight through a really simple graph. I promise it's just one, which you can see right over here. It was actually brought to our attention recently by a great organization called AMAC, whose CEO, Rebecca Weber, is somewhere here tonight. So that line right there, that represents the number of abolitions across the world since the late 1500s. As you can see, for years and years, it was flat, because the evil of slavery was the rule across the globe. But right in the middle there, it jumps. Something changed dramatically, and that year was 1776. That was the year that an entirely new nation was born, called the United States of America, and it was based on the revolutionary principle that all men are created equal by God with certain unalienable rights. And these words were written by a proud Virginian named Thomas Jefferson, and they changed the world. Before this time, no state under British rule had abolished slavery, and the British Empire didn't do so until 1883. But right after our founding in 1776, it started to happen rather quickly, state by state, eventually coming to a head in a very bloody civil war. This global expansion of human freedom, dignity, and opportunity that you see represented here was not an accident. It is the legacy of our founders, and it is a testament to the values of 1776. But right now, all around the country, our next generation is learning that we're the bad guys, that we're growing up in a hateful place with hateful people, hateful institutions all around them. To fight back, 1776 Action has launched aggressive advocacy campaigns in a number of states using every medium at our disposal: radio, TV, text messaging, digital, on and on. We created a 1776 pledge to force candidates and officials to take a stand on this topic, and it's now been signed by over 250 candidates around this country at the state and local level, including your candidate for Governor Glenn Youngkin. And just the other day, we launched a new campaign to declare this month, September, as Patriotic Education Month, and we are recruiting elected officials from governors down to school boards to issue a proclamation that includes all sorts of ideas and activities to celebrate our heroes and our history. In terms of the solution to this challenge in our schools, I also want to remind you of the words of another great Virginian, George Washington, who said, "Every post is honorable in which a man can serve his country." In other words, the solution to this assault on our history and our values is right here in this room. All of us have a role to play, and the parents that are leading this school board recall are showing what it really means to be a citizen. We are here today to do what we can to amplify your work and to let you know that we are with you in this fight. Speaking of how everyone has a role, I also want to highlight someone in the audience tonight, and I know that she's going to kill me for doing this, but that's okay. Jennifer Tafuto is not from Virginia, but she went to college here, University of Virginia. She's a fourth-generation teacher who for the last 6 years has taught second grade in Connecticut. Because of her love for her students in this country, she just publicly resigned in order to sound the alarm and fight back against the toxic curriculum and trainings being pushed on students and teachers in her school. Her resignation video has gone viral online. In the past week, we have completely thrown her into the fire, doing all sorts of interviews on national television and radio. She's been on Fox and Friends twice, talking to a lot of people. She walked away from what she thought would be her forever career, and she's been taking a lot of heat for it. But we need not only parents, but teachers, educators, administrators as well in this fight, and we know that they're out there, and we're going to find them, and we're going to help them speak out. I want to ask her to just stand up, and I want all of you to give her a round of applause for taking a stand for this country. No matter, thank you. The fact is that we didn't start this fight, and jumping into it is frankly uncomfortable for a lot of people. But in fighting to save Loudoun County's schools and inspiring others around the country to save their own, we are going to save this country. No matter our color or our creed, whether we were born here or chose to come here, we are all Americans. And we're tired of people trying to divide us against one another. We love this country, and we're tired of people saying that we shouldn't. Together, we have a lot of work to do, but if we put our heads down and we push forward together, we're going to win, and the other side isn't going to know what hit them.
All right, I am Ian Pryor, Executive Director of Fight for Schools. I just want to start off, thank you, Adam. Thank you, 1776 Project, for coming here. Thank you, Dr. Carson, Glenn Youngkin, Winsome Sears. Thank you, Larry O'Connor. But I really want to thank all the volunteers for Fight for Schools that have been an inspiration to this entire country. I don't think any of us on March 11th, 2021 could have imagined we'd be sitting here talking about this. But here's where we are, because on March 12th, 2021, you had a member of the school board incite a Facebook mob to plot against parents that were opposed to their policies. And we all saw what happened there. They walked into the wrong bar. Because as Larry alluded to, you know, when you have the federal government and they come for your money or whatnot, you're going to go out and vote. But when they come for your kids, you're going to go out and fight. And that's what we've been doing. So for the past 6 months, we've been out there gathering signatures to go out there and file in court to try and remove these school board members as we try and take back our schools. And 2 weeks ago today, we filed our first case against Beth Bartz, who quite frankly has shown completely unacceptable behavior for an elected representative in the United States of America, regardless of your party. Now, this is a tough situation because we've got a statute that's against us. We've got a Commonwealth attorney that's against us. The odds are stacked against us. But we called our PAC Fight for Schools, not Surrender Our Schools. And they can expect a fight. And so I say to the school board, you're not going to wait us out. No matter what you do, your motivation is political power. Our motivation is our children's education and the country that they are going to grow up in. And so we are never going to stop fighting for that. Now, as we move forward, we're going to need help. We've been going out there, like I said, we've been collecting signatures. We think that we will be done with signatures by Election Day. But we're going to need help in other areas. School board elections. We need people to step up and run for these offices. It's not enough to say we can find somebody else to do it. No, you have to ask yourself, can I do this? This is a key part of what's going on. There's going to be a special election at some point. There's going to be the 2023 elections. That is our fight. This is a long fight. It's not going to be something that happens in 2 months or 5 months. It is going to be a commitment, a citizen commitment of oversight to the people that control the facilities and the education that happens when we send our kids through those 2 doors every day. So I will close, and also I would like to thank all of our sponsors and everybody else for coming here. Thank you. You are again showing not just the country, but the world, based on the media presence at the last Loudoun County School Board meeting, what it's like to engage in democracy and hold your government institutions accountable. So give yourselves a round of applause as well. And as I've said several times throughout this journey, this is ultimately the fight of our lives. We don't always get an opportunity to have this kind of moment where we can do something good beyond just going to work, beyond just, watching the Woke FL. We get to do something that is good and make history. So this is the fight of our lives, and we need to do whatever it takes to win. Thank you.
There you go, Ian Pryor. I think I stole his line, Chardonnay Antifa. Sorry, Ian, it's too good. I'm taking it for myself. He's so right. He is so right. This is, what comes to mind, what's going on here, what we're seeing here, what we've seen in these school board meetings, what we're seeing when you go door to door to get these signatures for the recall effort, what we're seeing as individual citizens are sitting, and I know you're sitting in silence and contemplating and pondering, saying, what if I ran for school board? I don't know if you've noticed, every time I interview any of you who show up and showed up at these meetings, Brandon Michon, I just got to meet face to face tonight. Brandon, and I feel so bad because he's just a PE teacher. He just wants to, teach his kids. And every time he's on, so are you going to run for school board? Michon for school board. Michon for school board. Right, but every single time, it's like, because it does take individuals to step up and say, yeah, that's right. I care about it, and I'm going to be a part of this. Let's go. Isn't it great to live in a constitutional republic? Let's keep it. And as I see these school board meetings and I see the petition drives and I see all of you contemplating about running and being a local representative in your school board, not because you want to be famous, because it matters to you, as I see this rally tonight and all of these people together and great sponsors coming forward to move this issue along, you know what phrase comes to mind? Community organizing. Welcome to community organizing. Oh, that's right. We were told it was the most beautiful, purest endeavor you could ever imagine. Thank God we have community organizers. They never thought we would organize, did they? Did they? You know what? There's nothing wrong with community organizing as long as you're organizing your communities the way you want it organized. Don't let your community be organized against your will. You need to organize your communities. Well done, you, for doing that. All right. I'm now very proud to introduce one of those individuals, your neighbor, your friend, who did raise her hand. She's raised her hand a few times. Just recently, she raised her hand to run and represent you for Congress. She's also raised her hand to join the United States Marine Corps. She is a Marine, she is a mother, she is an education advocate, and she was your nominee for the Republican Party in the 10th Congressional District. She is a warrior in every sense of the word, Alicia Andrews.
Let's see if I'm a true tech person, too. Hi, everybody. How are you? There's almost 1,000 people in here. Is that the best you got? How the heck are you? That is definitely more like it. I'm Alicia Andrews. And for those of you who don't know, there is a gentleman in this room where he and I set the world on fire earlier this year. A single tweet and me calling every journalist I knew, because I made a promise to you last year that I wouldn't leave you, I wouldn't abandon you no matter how November went, and I didn't. I watched every school board meeting. I heard every cry of the Commonwealth. And I looked around and said, can anybody else hear us? Does anybody care? And I watched a mad dad beg someone to raise the dang bar. So Brandon Michon, not a PE teacher, can you stand up? That night, I cried to my husband because I watched a mad dad show exactly how powerful a father can be when he's fighting for his children. I watched another father be denied the ability to talk for his son who had special needs. You all saw it. We broke the internet. And then I watched every single time this continued to happen. But the beauty was, we were the lightning rod. Now everybody in the United States of America, as well as outside, knows exactly where Loudoun County is. And let me tell you, and let me be direct to our school board, when I get ticked off, my social media is pretty powerful, and I get trolled by a lot of our friends over here in the press. And I can't wait to tell them every awful thing that you do. I'm not afraid of you. I've been on your hit list. Keep it up. Now, I'd like to invite a few friends to the stage, some people that you might have seen before. Local heroes in our community. So if you are a part of my parent panel and you know who you are, can you please come to the stage? Now someone's going to steal Joe's car.
Nobody wants to steal my car.
Now, all of you have seen everything that's happened here in Loudoun County. And sadly, we're not alone with the terrible things that have happened. Everything from the Fight for Five to the CRT to the insanity we've seen for the push for 9/11. And if you aren't awake now and you aren't paying attention as to what's happening, my friends here are going to share their testimony as what's brought them out of the woodwork. We're going to start with Mr. Joe Mobley, and he's going to talk a little bit about what brought him to the school board. Go ahead, Joe.
You know, so Alicia, Ian, the whole gang, they don't give us like scripts or prompts or questions or
Trial by
anything.
fire, my friend.
But honestly, So I'm a kid from Long Island. You know, my parents, who are an interracial couple, who somehow, and like myself, I'm part of an interracial couple, somehow they set their white supremacists aside to marry us. And my parents moved to Virginia to have a better future for their kids, for their family, because this used to be the best place to live and work and raise a family. And I think there's a guy who's going to try and do something about that floating around here somewhere. But I decided as a child I was going to be in the military. Didn't know what I was going to do. It ended up being music. Didn't play any instruments or anything. But this is the deal. People, you know, Dimas Christophe's in here, his family, Christians from Iran. Like, you want to talk about prosecution? We've got Cuban Patty Menders here. People come from across the world begging, leaving behind all of their family, all of their possessions, to come here and experience, you know, the hope. That's what these stripes are, and these stars. Justice. There used to be justice, not social justice or woke justice or whatever, or to raise their right hand, as she have and I have and others of you have, to fight and sweat and bleed for this country. Now, look, my kids are homeschooled, because I can't trust the Loudoun County School Board. But here's the problem. You know, my kids are going to work, and I'm going to work, and my kids are going to marry and have relationships and all this stuff with the public school crazies. So that's why I'm with Fight for Schools. That's why I'm one of Patty's watchdogs. It's not because I'm bored. My job is really tough. It's even tougher with the current president, and that's all I'll say, you know. Yeah, so that's why I'm here, and I'm anxious to answer your questions. And now we're going to pass the she.
All right, next we have Miss Van Fleet. Thank you, Joe. And before we go on to she, you know, Joe, you bring up a great point. What's interesting about the people that have served and continue to serve and understand that it's an honor to serve and that it's not a one-time commitment. It's a lifetime commitment. It's part of what I love about our beloved Corps. Right, Mr. Black? It's there you go. I got some friends.
You guys could go back and still go Army. You know, we take it.
Over my ice-cold dead body. But what we learn is that something that's in you forever. And it's an honor, and it's a privilege to serve. And that's something that I think is so lost in translation. We have so many people who run for their own self-righteous reasons. I decided to run last year for my children. I fight now for my children. I fight for your children because we deserve a future that's worth fighting for. And I think Ms. Van Fleet knows a thing or two about what happens when people don't fight for where they're from. Love to hear your story.
Okay. Well, so it's not a question about why I got involved. Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I mean, you could give both. I mean, I'm here for you.
Okay. I think I'm just I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I compare what's going on here, the wokeness, to the Chinese Cultural Revolution. Yeah. So everyone, the CRT reminds every Chinese who either have experience or have knowledge of Cultural Revolution. And one of the things is when we were in school, we knew who belonged to the red category, who belonged to the black category. The students that belonged to the black categories were born to parents who deemed by the CCP as class enemies. So because of that, they were discriminated against, their rights were deprived, basic rights, okay? And that label passed down to their children as class enemies. And you have to fill out every official paper you have to fill out, you have to pick what class origin you belong to. There's no escape. You are born with that, you pass down to your children. The only place you can escape is in public spaces when nobody knows anybody else because we all look alike. But The CRT is more potent weapon to divide people. You cannot hide your racial identity. So in that case, yeah, it's so much easier to divide people. And now CRT teaches the children, once you're born white, you will always be oppressor. Once you're born black or any other color, you will be always oppressed. So you can see that is the same thing. I want to talk a little more about the Cultural Revolution. Okay, so do you know that the very first thing the Communist Party did when they took over China in 1949, they gathered all the school teachers and gave them intensive wokeness training. They have to attend training day and night, no weekend. They have to learn all the new Marxist ideology, the communist ideology, so that they can teach to the students. And they quickly replaced all textbooks. And everything was based on communism and Marxism, even the math. Of course, the history is all rewritten. And since then, the Chinese education system is an indoctrination mill. Ever since, I just want to say a few more things.
You're fine.
And I'm done. Okay, so.
You go right ahead, darling.
Okay, so they indoctrinated, during the Cultural Revolution, there was a full display of what those indoctrinated kids are capable of. They were the Red Guards. Have you heard about the Red Guards? They beat up their teachers. They killed many of the teachers. They abolished the law enforcement. They destroyed temples, statues. They became mouse bulldogs. That's what indoctrination can do. And that's what the left here wants to turn our children into mouse red guards for them. We already seen them on the streets during the so-called summer of unrest. They were there doing exactly what the red guards were doing. And many of them are college students, some are even law school students. That's what I'm telling you. This is communist takeover. And actually, I want to make it kind of simple for people to understand what CRT is. CRT to me is a bunch of communist tactics. I call CRT communist race tactics. They only have one. They only have one goal, that is to indoctrinate our kids, divide American people, and control American people. That's it. So we need to make CRT as toxic as possible so that even the liberals can defend it. That's how we fight back.
Well, you now all have your marching orders. Make it as toxic as possible. There's your homework assignment. You're welcome. All right, Ms. Chantal, I know that you're a mom just like me, and I know that that's part of what's driven you to fight as hard for your daughter, who we just saw. She's precious. But what's really brought you to come to the school boards? What has driven you to make you want to come out and fight?
Well, what driven me to fight or to stand up at the school board meeting was my love for people. I love children. I love working and listening to the sound of children playing outside. So during this whole pandemic, It really opened my eyes when I had to watch the death of David Dorn on live television. Watching his death opened so many chapters in my life, because I'll be honest to you guys, I thought Black Lives Matter. I was rooting for that at one time, but I realized that it was all fake. It was, they did nothing for the community that they burned and they loot, and they destroyed communities. They didn't do anything for the schools, the children. So when I watched his death, and I said, you know what, I gotta open my eyes, I gotta do some research and see what the hell is going on. I had an awesome teammate that sat down with me for like 3 months, and he educated me on just basically what my mom taught me. Don't believe rumors. Go with facts. And I would hear that Trump was racist. And I'm like, okay, well, I want to see where he called me the N-word or cockroach. And I would watch videos of Biden doing the same thing. So when I saw that, and I said, okay, I got to put truth with facts. And then I said, okay, I got to get involved in my community. I got to tell the world what's going on. We are being bamboozled. So I signed up to go to a lot of meetings to meet our Lieutenant Governor, Youngkin. And I did get in Youngkin's face for a little bit, because I was like, hey, I heard that you were supporting the, I think it's this, what is it, the SPL? Yeah, but he shut it down, okay? So he is my number one. But the Lieutenant Governor, Winsome Sears, she just, the way she came into America the right way, her father came in with, 3 cents. I said, hey, I have to get involved with my community. So then I registered to vote for our community governors. And then I met, what was her name? I'm sorry if I forgot your name. Elizabeth? Yes. She guided me to fight for school. And she asked me,
And
well,
we're glad
what do you
you're
want to
here.
do? And I said, I want to talk at the school board for CRT. And that's what I did.
Well, we're glad you're here. And what you don't know is Ann Dorn is actually in Virginia right now, and David Dorn. Mike Chapman knows how special I think that our law enforcement really is, and what happens to our law enforcement community is just awful, and it chokes me up because I know Ann, and she's a precious soul. So I'm right there with you. All right, Miss Monica. Now, Monica Gill has a unique perspective that she brings to the table, because she's actually seen the ramifications of not only what CRT is doing to our kids, but also what keeping our schools closed, what forcing our kids to mask up, and actually seeing the trickle-down effect of what it's doing to the faculty and kids. So, Monica, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. So what brings me here, my child does not go to Loudoun County Public Schools like Joe. She's homeschool co-opt. But I am a teacher for Loudoun County Public Schools. I teach at Loudoun County High School. I teach advanced placement government, and I teach U.S. history the right way. So I first really started to be alarmed when Loudoun County Public Schools began to push their equity, diversity, and inclusion initiatives. And we did our first teacher training. And at that first teacher training, I was alarmed and appalled at how they were pushing all of the buzzwords for critical race theory. It was white supremacy, microaggressions, implicit bias, and I was thinking, what? You know, I don't, what is going on here? This doesn't even look normal to me. And in the midst of that alarm, I started to write letters, speak out, but for a long time I kind of felt like I was a lone voice. But I'll tell you, the reason that I'm involved is because I love my students. honestly love my students. There is a sign over the threshold of my door that says, "You are loved," so that when they walk through the door, they see that. I tell my kids that I love them every day. I write it on their papers. Every quiz or test, there's one bonus question that says, "Mrs. Gill loves me, true or false?" And so this is earnest. Like, I love these kids. I pour my life into them. I invest myself in them. And to see what the county was doing, what they were pushing on teachers, and knowing that the real goal of what they were doing was to indoctrinate teachers and force this critical race theory, imposing it as a lens by which teachers are supposed to educate kids. I just knew this was wrong. And you have to understand, when the school board says we're not teaching CRT to kids, it's true, they're not. They're not saying, "Here's CRT, teachers, we're training you in this, and you go teach this to the kids." No, they're indoctrinating the teachers, and it's a trickle-down effect to our kids. They're imposing this lens, which is a very distorted lens of race, on our kids, and I'm watching the impact that it's having on our staff, on our student body. We are being told that we have to disrupt and dismantle white supremacy. But the reality is that this is being extremely disruptive to our community. Our kids are being encouraged to discriminate against each other. And it is heartbreaking to watch this take place. So that's why I've been speaking out, and yeah, hear me roar.
I cannot pretend to speak for every person in here, but as a Loudoun County Public Schools mother, I can only dream of teachers that are just like you. Now, the next question I have, which our time's going to be a little bit short, but it'll be for our next question, which will be the last one for each one of you, is really going to be, what advice do you have for people out here who have not yet got involved on either what's something that they can look for, what's something they can do, who's someone that they should talk to, what can they do to get involved and be able to do what you've been doing, or maybe something that you've learned along the way to help make sure that their children's voices are heard? We'll start with Miss Monica.
Okay, I think my best advice, there is already a lot of momentum that we have as parents, as members of this community to push against this. But I think the most important thing that we need to understand is this battle is not just ours as the adults or the parents. Our kids are in this cultural battle with us. And so you have a responsibility as their parents to be raising them up and teaching them about all of these issues. You cannot ignore it. You need to be engaging them about what is critical race theory, what are the gender ideologies. You need to be really getting in it with them. You need to be paying attention to everything that's going on in school and equipping your kids to be able to challenge their teachers and challenge their peers. Our kids are being indoctrinated in our schools. They are not being taught how to think. They are being taught what to think. And we have been asleep at the wheel just thinking that everything in public schools is okay with the majority of teachers. They are teaching our kids the right things, and that's not the case. So it is incumbent upon you as parents and grandparents to be engaging your kids and teaching them how to think. I'm a teacher, so I'm going to give you resources, okay? The Art of Argument by Larson and Hodge. Write it down. Order it. It is a book that goes through 28 logical fallacies. Teach them to your kids. Do one a week at the dinner table with your children. And they'll be able to identify those logical fallacies, and they will be able to see where bad arguments are, and not just identify them, but challenge them. Another one is Mama Bear Apologetics, empowering your kids to challenge cultural lies. We have got to be empowering our kids to challenge these cultural lies because they're in this war with us. We can't just sit back.
All right, Miss Chantal.
Everything Monica said, but number one for me is teach your children to love our country and love God.
Amen.
Growing up, I wasn't taught to love my country, so teaching my child that's number one. And then the Bible. I encourage parents to get involved in your child's curriculum, find out what they're reading. Also, get involved in your community. We have so much going on, and there's door knocking, the pop-up events, rallies. Also, getting involved with finding out who are the governor campaigns. That's where I am right now. So, I encourage you guys to get involved. Every little thing counts. Just remember that every little thing, even if you're talking to someone at the grocery store, that counts. Just be open-minded and be kind, because that's all I've met, and I've lost a lot of family from my thinking. So that's all you have to do.
Well, I'd like you to take a look out here. You have 1,000 new family members. So welcome home. You can come over and have dinner with me anytime. And my husband's watching, so he just knows that's true. All right, Miss Sheep, what advice do you have?
Yeah, since I don't have children in school anymore, I'm just going to talk in general.
Okay.
Organize. One thing that the Democrat Party and the Communist Party in common is they organize every damn living thing. In China, you cannot escape their organization. They even organize their students here in America. I mean, the Chinese students, they have their organizations, they have their commissary in every level. Okay, I think we need to organize in order to beat them. And for me, my personal story is that I was frustrated, I was mad seeing what happened to America. But it's just me. Only until I joined this great organization, Loudoun County Republican Women's Club.
She does accept men in her club.
Within the week, I got email said going to a school board. I did it. So I just started from kitchen table to national TV. That is the power of organization. Okay, and I am going to Chinese media with another fighter. Her name is Lily William. We're going there to talk to the Chinese audience, to tell them you cannot just stay quiet. If you still want to enjoy the prosperity and the freedom of this country, now it's your turn. Join the fight. I'm going there.
That's something for everyone here to take notice on. Even if you do not have a child in the Loudoun County Public School System, or in the Fairfax, Prince William, or wherever you might live, you still pay taxes, so get up and get involved. All right, Mr. Mobley.
All right, camera guy. I have a reputation. I like to move around, so you just have to go with it. But
You can take us to church. Go ahead.
I'm not going to take you to church today. Not today. Well, I usually do. But, I'm a super gregarious person. I like having conversations, and when I moved to Loudoun County, this is going to hurt some people's feelings, but I get on, I'm like, okay, well, this bold and courageous woman is running, so she knows someone. So I tweet, call, smoke signal, whatever, Alicia,
and
I say, what do? I got to hit the ground running, like, skip the bull crap. I don't care who you are or what you've done. You're in the arena now. What do you need? Who do I talk to? She said, you have to join the women's group. You have to join the Loudoun County Republican Women.
See, Patty, I'm always recruiting.
She said, "You seem like a straight shooter. I'm going to shoot you straight. They're the only ones doing anything." I know that that's hurting people's feelings. And if that hurts your feelings, then this is definitely going to hurt your feelings, this next part. But we're wasting our time on so much bull crap that doesn't matter. We're talking about social justice. We're talking about all white people are. If you think all white people are racist, you're not misinformed. You're not confused. You're stupid. You're an idiot. Okay? And go somewhere. If you want to be around black people, Africa. There's like 28 countries over there, and they will have you happily. Okay? But here in our country, things are on the line. We don't have time. I spent 7 years fighting human trafficking. I sacrificed much of my mental health, much of my marriage, much of my children's ability to have a dad home and mentally present. I sacrificed all of that crap for a better union. And I put the law enforcement uniform away. I put the military uniform away, and I come home to be a family man. And what's the community looking like? It's total nonsense. It's total nonsense. And guess what? I know you guys paid a lot of money to be here, but you didn't pay me. You paid them. So I'm going to hurt your feelings. It's your fault. You're in the closet about everything. You're in the closet about being pro-gun, about being pro-life, about being a Christian. You're in the closet about your neighbors cohabitating. So we've made it. We've made it this far. But if you don't think that this is on the line, as a conservative, you're not into the wokeness and the social. If you don't think this is on the line, you're an idiot. You here today are an idiot. We don't have time for you to be at home snuggling with your blanket because, oh, my boss can fire. I don't give a crap about your career, okay? I care more about this. So if you're not going to stand up for it because we can't do it, this isn't enough. This isn't going to make it happen. So that's what I do. Come out of the closet and do something.
Never accused Mr. Joe here of not telling you the truth and shooting straight. But please join me in thanking these parents for, one, being brave. 2, being willing to not only fight for their own children, but to fight for yours. Because I assure you, being in this fight is not an easy fight. It isn't our jobs. Like you just said, everything's on the line. And each one of these individuals has personal skin in the game. And each and every one of you needs to have the same skin in that game. You pay the taxes, let's roll. Thank you. I'm back. Just kidding. I have the distinct privilege of wearing the colors of the United States Marine Corps. And I have even more of a distinct privilege of telling you about someone who's about to shake the ground for education. A woman who's not afraid of anything that anyone throws at her. A woman who I believe can take on any, and I mean any, special interest group that doesn't have our children's best interest at heart. And let me tell you, I know a thing or two about female Marines, and this one's going to leave some people whimpering when they walk away. She is strong and determined, and she's going to be the next lieutenant governor of this great Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Winsome Sears.
somebody's excited. You know, it's so good to be here. And I'm so glad that you are here because it means you're tired and you're not going to take it anymore. That's what that means. And I tell you what else we know. We now know that school board elections are important. You thought you could, it's just a school board, and what harm can they do? Oh, yeah. We know that now, don't we? I want to give you some real sobering numbers. And behind these numbers are children, our children. I was in Lynchburg 2 days ago, and I was made to understand that this year, 95% of the children failed. 95. They promoted them to the next grade level anyway. Anyway. But here's the kicker. So we stopped school in January, right? And so they lost that. And then almost half of them, I'm told, never even logged on for this school semester. And so they've lost last year, they've lost this year, and now they're socially promoted. It's still happening, folks. It's still happening. But then you probably also saw that in Charlottesville, they have granted the designation to 86% of their students that they are gifted. Here's the thing. 86% gifted, and 50% of them failed the SOLs. Are you kidding me? They designated 20% of the African American children as advanced. Turns out it's really only 4% of them that could pass. Virginia, we need to wake up. We have got problems. I mean, these are the children who are supposed to be, at some point, are entrepreneurs, are business owners, are employees. What's going to happen to them? Here's the thing. Let me give you some more numbers. So when we look at the NAEP scores, the National Assessment of Educational Proficiency, we find that in Virginia, they're tested at the 4th, 8th, and 12th grade level. Well, by the 8th grade, 35% of Asian children are failing math. 45% of white children, 70% of Latino children. This number brought tears to my eyes. 84% of black children cannot do math by the time they're in the 8th grade. And by the way, 85% of them are functionally illiterate. The school to prison pipeline has started. Don't listen to me. That's what the state NAACP has sent letters to certain superintendents to say, this diversity stuff is not working. But let me give you some more numbers. 85% of the children who are juvenile delinquents are functionally illiterate. You see, the one hand follows the other. And by the way, in the prison system, 77% of the people there are also functionally illiterate. It's a problem. So if you've got a problem with me being a black Republican, you've got a problem. Because that's not the problem. These are children at the 8th grade. They're supposed to be getting ready to go to high school. They're not ready. Our children must have marketable skills so that they can be ready to compete on a global scale. But they're not ready. So what are we going to do? We're going to change things. Here's what we're going to do. We are going to have parental school choice now. We must have that. It is time. The money must follow the child and not the school building, not the brick building. Because our children must be taught accelerated math. And they must get advanced diplomas because they say people who look like me, our children can't do it. Excuse me, soft bigotry, a president said, of low expectations. No more. It's working in Florida. I asked the lieutenant governor, how does it work? Why are the children succeeding? And I was told this, because they have a lottery system, as you know, and you don't take the cream of the crop. Everybody gets the ability to move if you want to move your child from certain schools into other schools, school choice, folks. And here's what they have found. Those children that move from the failing school, they have found that by the time 4 years have passed, those children are either at grade level coursework or past grade level coursework. And how did they get there? Here's how. Saturday schools built into the teacher's contract. Saturday schools. After school tutoring built into the teacher's contract. Here's another one. Merit-based performance built into the contract. Imagine that. No tenure. If you can't do it, you can't do it. And you close the schools if the schools are not working. I mean, really. So here's what I'm saying, because our kids don't get do-overs. We need to teach critical reading theory, critical math theory, critical science theory, critical technology theory, because that is what will help us to remain the superpower of the world. China has more honor students than we have students. Did you hear that? China has more honor students than we have students. What are we going to do? We are going to get new leadership. Hold on, Virginia. Change is coming. It's coming. Now is not the time to give up. Now is not the time to give in. We are going to have a better Virginia that works for everybody, where every child has the ability to not just survive but thrive, so that they can create generational wealth for their children and their children's children and their children's children. Because this election is not about us, it is about them. And America must be where we can remain the #1 superpower, because China is projected to surpass us by the year 2030, and the way that they're going, they will get it if we don't wake up, because we are not the only country on the planet. So you've got a job to do. You know that we have an election coming up September 17th. This is not about Republicans and Democrats. It's about our future. And so we need you to make sure you get there and you vote and you bring others along, because we are not going to allow ourselves to be canceled or doxxed or anything else, because this is America, and it must remain a place we can escape to. As Rodney King said, can't we all just get along? I mean, really. You know, you can either light a candle or you can curse the darkness. To light a candle is to find a solution. To curse the darkness is to be a victim, and I am not a victim. And my father, who came here with $1.75 and is retired comfortably, is not a victim. He came August 11th, 1963. I said to him, because he came 17 days before Martin Luther King Jr. gave his I Have a Dream speech. I said, why would you come then? You actually asked to come? Yes. Because, he said, this is where the jobs were. I said, but you came at the height of the civil rights movement. He said, this is still where the opportunities were. And with that $1.75, as I said, started his American dream because he took any job he could find and put himself through school. Education lifted my father out of poverty. Education lifted me out of poverty because I have to find my own way in this world. Education will lift all of our children out of poverty. And I want to say one last thing. This is my second close. Let me tell you. Some people would have us believe that we are still in 1963. This is not 1963. We can eat anywhere. We can drink anywhere we want. We actually own water fountains. We can live anywhere we want. We have had a black president elected twice. We have a vice president who has Jamaican heritage in the White House right now. It is not 1963, and we are not going back. And some people have these nefarious ideas, and they use these things that have happened to people who look like me for their purposes. We are not going to be used anymore. We don't need a political savior. We need you to get out of our way so we can do what we need to do. I am tired. I am tired of being used. People who look like me are tired. Go find another victim. We're going to win this year with your help. We're going to be one Virginia. We are going to represent Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Reform Party, Green Party. One Virginia. Thank you.
Seems like a fitting song. I can't imagine a more American woman than a United States Marine. Can you? Next to our stage is someone who I think most of you have maybe not heard from, but he's the future first son of this great Commonwealth, Mr. Grant Youngkin.
This is awesome. A lot of people here. That's great. Well, yeah, I'm Grant Youngkin, and one of the unique and my favorite privileges in all my life is that I get to have Glenn Youngkin as a dad. I'm so happy that now more and more you all are starting to see what type of person he is and what type of leader he can be. My dad really doesn't like bragging about himself, so I typically have to do it for him when I go around places. Because he really is that amazing. He's a role model. He's been a role model in every aspect of my life, whether it's been my educational career, my athletic career, my faith, how I treat and view people, but especially my education. He emphasized the importance of education to me at an early age and was very involved in my educational journey. He had a job that required him to work a lot, and when he came home, one of the first things he did was sit down and do a physics problem, or do a math problem, or build a diorama, and I know plenty of parents here have probably had to build a diorama. One of my favorite scenes that we talk about is from one of my favorite movies growing up is The Incredibles. And I waited so long for the second movie to come out, and there's a scene in there where Bob Parr is sitting at the table teaching his son math. And he slams his fist, his eyes are all tired, and he gets up there and he bangs the table and he goes, "I don't understand why they changed math. It's not done this way." And I tell you, we have had plenty of those conversations, but after a long day of work, he would come home and do physics problems or do math with me. But whether it was a diploma, physics, or math, Dad was always there to help me and care about my education no matter what, and I'll be forever thankful for that. But now we enter a time where we see our education system starting to stray away from what it was intended to do. And I want all of Virginia's kids and all Virginia parents to know that Glenn Youngkin will give the same attention, care, and have the same vision that he did with my academic career to all of your kids. Get ready, Virginia, because it's pretty amazing the impact he can have. So now I have the unique opportunity to bring up the next governor of Virginia, my dad, Glenn Youngkin.
Thanks, everybody. She's got a great t-shirt on over there. Well, good evening. I thought 2 or 3 people might show up. Exactly. I want to start by just for a moment acknowledging what just happened. Because when your child stands up in front of a crowd like this and gets to talk about you, it brings tears to your eyes. That's why we're all here. We're all here, yes, because we love the Commonwealth of Virginia. We love America, but we're here because of our children. That's why we're here. That's why you are here. This is why you have stood up here in Loudoun County and absolutely demonstrated what it means to love your children. Boy, I love mine. Suzanne and I have been so blessed. We have 4 great kids. And every day, we thank the Lord for them, and we ask Him to watch over them. And I know all of you do the same thing. So we're here tonight not to talk about Republicans and Democrats, but we're here tonight as parents, as grandparents, as aunts and uncles, as teachers, those amazing teachers earlier, as students, because we know there's a better way. We've come together to say we've watched what this liberal, left, progressive agenda in Richmond's doing to our children, and guess what? We have had enough. That's why we're here. Just recently, I met this fabulous young couple, and they came to Northern Virginia. They just had their first child. They came here because they thought the schools were great. That's why they came here. They were sacrificing. They were struggling. They had both had careers. It's expensive to live here. I know you all know that. And they looked at me and they said, Glenn, we thought we could send our children to the schools here. But now we know we can't. It's too expensive to send them to private school and live. And so we're going to have to move away. I met a dad over the course of the last 8 months. And I watched this dad stand up in front of the Loudoun County School Board and tell them either do your job or give it up, raise the bar, and Brandon Michon is my hero. He's my hero. And I know he's all yours too. I've met with parents whose children worked so hard to get into TJ. And I listened to them and they said, we're going to stand up and disagree. We're going to disagree that a meritocracy is bad. And in the same breath, they said, but we should support with a program to help children who need to close a gap so they can get into TJ. You all have been working hard with no help from your political leaders. None. Zero. None. In fact, Terry McAuliffe and his hand-picked successor, Ralph Northam, have gone to work against you. And let's just remind ourselves, they're not working for you, they work for the education unions. That's who they work for. You know they work for him because they've given hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars to my opponent's campaign so that he'll do what they want. And we've been watching it over and over and over again. When our schools were closed unnecessarily for such a long period of time and our children were suffering all over the Commonwealth of Virginia, we, and I was with you, said we must open our schools 5 days a week for our kids. Terry McAuliffe didn't say a word. Why not? Because the teachers' unions told him not to. They told him not to. When he was governor, and 88 schools failed to reach their accreditation, rather than do the hard work and fix them, he lowered the standards, and not one has failed. Not one. He did the same thing to our children. Today, Virginia is ranked 50th in the standards in reading and math to progress from one grade to the next. Winsome talked about the soft bigotry of low expectations. It's alive and well in Virginia, folks. Terry McAuliffe defined a new education philosophy called every child left behind. This is what he did. And guess what? The teachers' unions win, Terry McAuliffe wins, and our kids lose. The one bill that came to his desk that talked about establishing charter schools, he vetoed. He vetoed. Virginia has 8 charter schools today. North Carolina has 190. Maryland has 140. We have 8. There's no choice in our school districts. None. Again, education unions win. Terry wins. Our kids lose. Our kids lose. And then Terry McAuliffe's Board of Education's progress a theory in school called CRT. It came from his administration. 2015 it started. And he had the audacity to say that CRT is a vast right-wing conspiracy invented by Donald Trump and Glenn Youngkin. He started it. And here we are today, again, with the education unions winning, Terry McAuliffe getting their money, and Virginia's kids losing. Well, I'm tired of Virginia's kids losing. I want Virginia's kids to win. I want Virginia's kids to win. So, friends, help is coming because we are going to win this fall, and Jason Miyares is going to be your next Attorney General, and Winsome Sears is going to be your next Lieutenant Governor. And I cannot wait to go work for you. Hear me clearly. I want you to hire me to go work for you. This is not about a house or a title, although my opponent wants it to be, because he's just looking for a place to hang his hat while he looks for his next job. I'm going to go work for all of you. So when I have the great privilege of working with Winsome Sears and Jason Miyares, and oh, by the way, a new majority in our House of Delegates that we're going to win, we're going to go to work on day one. On January 15th, we are going to swear to the Lord Almighty we're going to go to work for you. We're going to thank Him for His providence. We're going to thank Him for His blessing. And then Jason and Winsome and I are going to work. And just last week, we laid out our day one game plan. I am no politician, but I know a lot about some things. You cannot have a successful 4 years unless you have a successful first year. And you cannot have a successful first year unless you have a successful day one. So we're going to go to work on day one. And yes, we're going to cut the cost of living in Virginia by bringing down the tax burden for all of you, getting rid of the grocery tax, doubling the standard deduction. They've been overtaxing us so much, it's unbelievable. We're going to reestablish
the safest communities in Virginia, as opposed to having 4 of our great cities ranked in the top 65 deadliest cities in America. We got to go to work for law enforcement. We got to invest in them. We got to protect qualified immunity. On day one, we are going to reinvigorate the job machine in Virginia like you have never seen. We're going to keep Virginia open. My opponent wants to close it. We're going to protect our right to work status. My opponent wants to get rid of it. And we have a plan to generate 400,000 jobs over 4 years, to foster 10,000 new businesses and get Virginia moving like she has never moved before. On day one, we're going to make government work for you as opposed to telling you what to do every day. And we're starting with an audit of all the departments of government, and I can't wait to actually put on the top of the list the Virginia Employment Commission and the DMV. Thank you. Friends, there is so much to do. But this last element is the underpinning to it all. We must reestablish expectations of excellence in our schools. We must. We've watched our children suffer. We've watched families be burdened because our schools aren't working for us. They're working for the education unions. So on day one, we in fact are going to make sure our schools never close again. We in fact are going to reestablish expectations of excellence so that our schools know what they must do to educate our children so they're either career ready or they're college ready. We have to go to work for our kids. We know we have to invest in schools. I will preside over the largest education budget in the history of Virginia. We will raise teacher pay. We will invest in schools, and then we will turn around and demand that they perform. That's what we'll do. Parents have been shut out of the education system. No one listens to us anymore. I've watched all of you go to work at every one of the board meetings you've attended. So on day one, we're going to start closing the gap on charter schools and choice in Virginia by launching 20 innovative charter schools on day one to give parents a choice so that a child's destiny is not dictated by his or her zip code. And by the way, this is just a down payment. It's a day one down payment to get started. But when you have 8 and your competitor states have 140 and 190, we got a long way to go. So get ready, because we're going to shove this thing into overdrive, and we're going to give parents choice in Virginia. That's what we're going to do. But it all starts with recognizing that our curriculum has gone haywire. It's gone haywire. So on day one, we're going to ban teaching critical race theory in our schools. Day one. Day one. Thank you. Friends, I had an amazing moment Saturday a week ago. Winsome and Jason and I, we were at a place called Historic Holly Knoll. It's in Gloucester. It's on the York River. This is the place that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. went and spent the week before he came to Washington to deliver his I Have a Dream speech. There's a big tree on the banks of the York River and a bench underneath it. And I found myself captivated by imagining him sitting on this bench and praying about what he was going to say. And he had a choice. He could talk about division and victimhood and anger, or he could talk about unity and opportunity and calling out the best of us as opposed to the worst of us. And of course, he chose the latter. How can we think that teaching our children to judge one another by the content of their skin as opposed to the content of their character is anything else but wrong? Anything else but wrong. So we have work to do. We have real work to do to actually reestablish expectations of excellence in the school systems across Virginia that used to be known nationally for the best place to send your kids. We're going to put them right back there. We're going to put them right back there. But we have work to do, all of us. This isn't about me. It's not about Winsome. It's not about Jason. It's about all of us going to work together. Now, this election starts in 9 days. 9. I know you're pinching yourself saying, didn't we just vote? 9 days, and then we have a 45-day period of early voting. And I need all of you to go to work with us. I need you to volunteer for the campaigns. We need election observers. We need election officials. We need you to train to actually fulfill needed positions. We need you to knock doors, write letters, make phone calls, put signs up, put bumper stickers on your car, wear hats. Friends, this is about locking arms and getting this done together. Getting it done together as Virginians. I mean, Virginians do not settle. And we don't follow. We lead. We stand on the shoulders of giants. And here we have a chance to lead again. Because we cannot forget, Thomas Jefferson wrote our Declaration of Independence, and George Washington led us to independence, and James Madison wrote our Constitution. And Patrick Henry stood up in the midst of immense pressure and said, we will not ratify that Constitution without a Bill of Rights protecting our rights. Here, use Virginia's. George Mason wrote it. Friends, we've been leading from the very beginning. Virginia's history is our nation's history, and our nation's future will be defined by Virginia's present, and it's in all our hands. So I ask you, go to work with us. Go to work with us. And together, we can change the future of this Commonwealth of Virginia. We can change the future of this country. And friends, I can't wait to go work for all of you as the 74th governor of the great Commonwealth of Virginia. God bless you all. Thank you. Thank you. Now I get the distinct pleasure, the absolute thrill, personally, of introducing Dr. Ben Carson. Some of you may know his story. It's inspiring. He was raised by a single parent who believed in education. And he chose to go to Yale because that was the place that he could afford to spend the $10 for the application fee. He went to the University of Michigan for medical school. Then he went to Johns Hopkins and became one of the best known, most respected pediatric neurosurgeons in the world. In the world. He has a servant's heart. He has a deep faith. I had the great privilege of praying with him during the convention time. And Winsome and I just got to pray with he and his wife Candy right here. This is an inspirational man. But he chose to actually move forward in his own view and service, and he ran for president. Then he was asked to serve as the 17th Secretary of Housing and Urban Development. And he did a fabulous job. A fabulous job. But his service doesn't stop there. He and his wife Candy have started the American Cornerstone Institute to continue to make a difference, to rely on their faith, to rely on their understanding of the need in education and community. This is what they stand for. But you know so much about a man when you actually hear him talk about his kids and his grandkids. He's got great kids. He's got 6 grandkids with 2 more on the way. And folks, he lives here in Virginia. His grandkids' future is what he talks about. And that's inspirational. And so it is my great privilege of introducing all of you to Dr. Ben Carson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure to be here in Virginia. We have a house here in Virginia, and after spending so many years in Maryland, it's kind of nice to move to a place where at least half the people are reasonable. And it's good to be here with Glenn Youngkin. He is a man who has a great faith in God. And we need leaders again who understand the Judeo-Christian values that allowed this country to ascend from nowhere to the pinnacle of the world. And inspirational leaders like Winsome Sears also, who's come a long way and is doing some amazing things. We've got very, very good choices in this state. And I want to thank each one of you for being here because it means that you care. You're not just going to sit in the corner and put your head down and hope that someone doesn't call you a name. And that's what's important if we're going to save our nation. Because the things that are going on right now, quite frankly, at our border, energy, inflation, foreign affairs. I mean, if I was intentionally trying to destroy our country, I could not do a better job than what they're doing right now. It's pretty bad. And think about our kids. Can you imagine what it must be like to be a young child today? First of all, you got to wear a mask. Okay, so you go to school, you don't get to see people's face, you don't even know who they are. You don't get to correlate what they're saying with their facial expression. That's such an important part of sociological development in people. They're missing out on that. And then they're being told that they may be harboring some horrible fatal disease, and even though it may not affect them, they may give it to their grandmother and she may die. Well, grandmothers do get old and they do die. But now you got this kid thinking they have something to do with it. And then, if they're white, they're told that they're oppressors and their ancestors and all their relatives are oppressors and just evil people. And if they're black, they are victims. They are the oppressed no matter what they do. All of this while you're trying to develop your self-image. And then if that's not enough, you may not be a girl or a boy. I really think it's child abuse is what we're doing to them. It's child abuse. And, as a neurosurgeon, I got to say something about the brain, of course. Yeah. you look at an animal's brain, you look at a human brain, on the surface, there are a lot of similarities. But the animal's brain has a very big, proportionally well-developed midbrain, because that's where you have the areas that allow you to react. That's why animals can react so much faster than we can. They react to what they look at. Their frontal lobes are not very well developed. That's where you do a lot of processing of information and deep thinking. And that's why we can think deeply and they can react quickly. And that works very well. But now we have people trying to teach our children that they should be more like animals. They should just look at somebody and react to the way that they look. And if they're white, they react one way, and if they're black, they react another way. That is taking us backward. You know, we're made in the image of God. And, you know, when I look at CRT and things like the 1619 Project, it sickens me, quite frankly, because, you know, they are trying to tell people that the most important factor in your life, in terms of determining how your life is going to go, are your external physical characteristics over which you have no control, and putting aside the thing that you do have control of, which is your character, which is what we really should be developing, and the thing that we should be teaching people to evaluate people. And that's what Martin Luther King was saying. He dreamed of a day when we would evaluate people on the content of their character and not the color of their skin. We are going just the opposite direction here. And then they're trying to say that we are somehow unique as a country because we had slavery. What a bunch of crap. You know, I mean, think about this. Slavery has been a part of humanity since history has recorded humanity's activities. So there are also more slaves in America today than there were in 1863 when the Emancipation Proclamation was put forth. Why don't we care about human trafficking and those people whose lives are being destroyed that way? But I will agree with them in one sense. We are unique in one sense amongst all the other nations, and that is because we were willing to fight a civil war to stop slavery. And that says a lot about the character of our nation. We lost a large portion of our population fighting against that terrible institution. And I got a news flash. They say white people are evil because of slavery. News flash. Where do you think they got the slaves from? They were having tribal wars in Africa, and there would be conquest, and the victorious tribes would either kill those who they had conquered or enslave them. Along came the Portuguese at first, and they said, "Why don't you sell those slaves to us?" And they said, "Boy, this sounds like a good economic deal." But they were the ones who actually were starting that whole process. So if having slaves makes you evil, then everybody's evil. They're all evil. They're like Satan. You know, Satan's not prejudiced. He hates everybody. But then when we came to the United States with slavery, I'll tell you something that most people don't know. There were black slave owners right here in Virginia. In fact, in 1670, the Virginia House of Burgess outlawed the ability of black slave owners and Indian slave owners to have white slaves. They said you can't buy Christians. That was their euphemism for white people from Europe. So obviously those people would have been evil too. So the evil goes all around. But you know, the fact of the matter, what it really shows is that people are people. And when they have an advantage, they take advantage of it. They use it. It doesn't matter if they're black or white or brown or yellow. That's what people do. And that's why people need to have love in their heart, and that's why they need to have God in their heart. Now, we've made an enormous amount of progress racially in this country. And, you know, I can remember when I was a youngster, you know, I was a terrible student. I was perhaps the worst student you've ever saw. Other students loved to have me around because nobody ever had to worry about getting the lowest score as long as I was there. And, you know, I was called all kind of horrible names. I tried to act like it didn't bother me, but it did. Not enough to make me study, but it did bother me quite a lot. But, you know, my mother believed in me when no one else did. My mother had less than a third grade education, but she was the wisest person I've ever known. And, you know, she got a lot of criticism. Her friends would say, "You can't make boys stay in the house and read books." And she said, they would say, "They're going to grow up and they're going to hate you." And I would overhear them sometimes, and I would say, "Mother, you know they're right." But it didn't matter. We still had to do it. And but she got the last laugh because one of her sons became a brain surgeon and the other one became a rocket scientist. So she must have known what she was doing. But in terms of progress that we have made as a society, you know, I was the worst student in the 5th grade, but by the time I was in the 7th grade, I was the best. And I was the only black student in the 8th grade at Wilson Junior High School. And they would give a special award for academic achievement at the end of the semester. And I said, well, I'm going to get it because I got all A's. You would take your report card to each teacher and they would put the grade on it and you take it to the next one. And I'd gone to all my classes, I had all A's. I got to the last class, which was band, and I was really good in band, so I knew I was going to get an A. The turkey gave me a C to ruin my report card because he didn't want me to get the award. To his chagrin, band didn't count. So I got the award, but one of the turkey teachers got up during the ceremony and chastised all the white students. How could you allow this to occur? You're obviously not working hard enough. And she actually believed that. And all the white kids, you know, they had been with me even back when I was in the 5th grade, so they had seen the transition and they respected it, and they were like doing this and pointing at her, you know. But people in those days actually believed that. I don't think anybody believes that anymore, you know. And you think about it, there are some on the left who say, everything's the same, we haven't made any progress. But I gotta tell you, when I was a kid and a black person would come on television who wasn't in a servile role, it was exciting. Everybody would call, everybody would come in and watch, you know. And now you have black generals and admirals and CEOs of Fortune 500 companies and university presidents, even Ivy League schools. We've had a black president of the United States, a black vice president, not doing a good job, but nevertheless. But just tremendous progress has been made. And this critical race theory is trying to erase that progress and send us back in the other direction. And we cannot allow that to happen. You know, the fact of the matter is, you know, all of our people have come to this country from different places. All of our ancestors came. You know, some came voluntarily, some came involuntarily. But guess what? We're all Americans. This is now our country. This is where we live. And everybody has contributed. You know, you take that little 6-year-old black boy, anybody in here could take him for a walk down the streets of Washington, D.C., and they could give him a black history lesson he would never forget. They could start by pointing to his shoes and say it was Jan Matzliger, a black man who invented the automatic shoe lasting machine, revolutionized the shoe industry throughout the world. And you step on that clean street and you tell them it was Charles Brooks, a black man who invented the street sweeper, those machines with the big brushes. And down that street comes a big refrigerated tractor trailer truck. You tell them it was Frederick Jones, a black man who invented the refrigeration system for trucks, later adopted for airplanes and boats and trains. And it comes to a stop at the red light and you tell them it was Garrett Morgan, a black man who invented the traffic signal. And you can tell them how he also invented the gas mask, say lots of lives during the war. And while you talk about the war, Henrietta Bradbury, a black woman who invented the underwater cannon, made it possible to launch torpedoes from submarines. And you see a beautiful black woman walking down the street. A black man did not invent her, but you can use that opportunity to talk about Madam C.J. Walker, a black woman who invented cosmetic products for women of dark complexion, was the first woman of any nationality in America to become a millionaire on her own efforts. And then you can go by the hospital, you can talk about Charles Drew, his contributions to blood banking, blood plasma understanding. Daniel Hale Williams, the first successful open heart surgery, had an operative mortality rate of less than 1.5%. You look up at the surgical light, Thomas Edison. You didn't know he was black, did you? Well, he wasn't, but his right-hand man, Lewis Latimer, was. You can tell how Lewis Latimer came up with the filament that made the light bulb work for more than 2 or 3 days, invented the electric lamp, diagrammed the telephone for Alexander Graham Bell, was a tremendous inventor in his own right. Most people have never heard of him. Walked by the railroad tracks. Andrew Beard, the automatic railroad car coupler, spurred on the Industrial Revolution. Elijah McCoy, automatic lubrication system for locomotive engines, had so many inventions. When something would come out, people would say, is that a McCoy? Is that the real McCoy? You know? And you got people like David Duke, racist people talking about the real McCoy, don't even know who they're paying homage to. But I'm just barely scratching the surface. But here's what's amazing about America. I can take that same walk down the street for virtually any nationality and point out tremendous things that they contributed. And that's how the United States of America went from nowhere to the pinnacle of the world in record time. And our diversity is not a problem, it is a strength. And we have to make sure that people know that. And I can tell you, I've had the privilege, along with my wife, Candy, who is here. We're somewhere. Where's Candy? There she is. You know, I got to tell you, I've had a very successful life, but I couldn't have done it without my wife of 46 years. Well, we've visited 68 countries and lived overseas. And I can tell you, there are a lot of beautiful places in the world, but there is no place like home. No place like America. And that's why it's so important that we fight to keep America, America. America, the beautiful. And it's not going to remain free if we, the people, don't stand up for what we believe in. The government will not keep America free. The government, they're not bad people, but they do what governments all over the world always do. They grow, they expand, they infiltrate, they try to control. The people who designed our Constitution, I think, with help from God, tried to do it in such a way that it would prevent the government from doing what they always do, encroaching upon our rights. You see, we are failing in that right now. You have government encroachment. This whole concept of mandates, this is a problem. This is a problem. Because it's a slippery slope. And if the people, like sheep, gently follow their leaders and just do whatever they say, believe me, there'll be more and more mandates as time goes on. That's what we have to be careful of. Now, if you want people to take the vaccine, then you got to give them the true information about vaccines. People are mature enough to make good decisions, but when you try to manipulate them, they become suspicious. You know, for instance, we now know from the Cleveland Clinic studies and the Israeli studies that natural immunity that you gain from having the virus is much better than the immunity that you get from vaccinations. Much better. And yet, the government, the CDC, won't even acknowledge natural immunity. Now, that makes people highly suspicious. And you've probably noticed, if you know some people who've had the virus and then gotten an immunization shot, that they seem to have a little more problems with it. Of course they would, because they've already got the antibodies circulating, and now you inject something that the antibodies react to very strongly. And we don't know what that reaction will be further down the line, particularly with spike proteins integrating into cellular structures. And so this is still something that we're experimenting with. And now you want to do it to the children? And we don't know what the impact will be 10, 15, 20 years down the road on our children. You know, in medicine, typically what we do are risk-benefit analysis. And we say, well, now, here we have a group, children, who have very little chance of dying from this. But do we now want to inject them with something and we don't know what the risks are for them down the road? Do we want to take that risk when there's almost no risk of them dying from the disease if they get it? Plus, we've learned how to treat it now, too. So I think if we come out and we give people all the information, the elderly and those who have a lot of comorbidities, benefit risk analysis, you do it appropriately, absolutely, they're better off taking a vaccine. But someone who is young, vibrant, and healthy, that's a decision that really should be left up to them. And that's why people came to America. Lastly, I think it's very important for us to recognize that we, the American people, are not each other's enemies. And we need to stop listening to those people who are trying to divide us. They're trying to divide us by race, by religion, by income, by age, by virtually everything. Divide and conquer. And we need to understand when Nikita Khrushchev, 60 years ago, said to our president, Eisenhower, your grandchildren's children will live under communism. Why would he say something like that? Because he knew that all they had to do was gain control of our media, and you can see they've done that pretty well, gain control of our school system so you can indoctrinate the kids, replace God and dependence on God with government and dependence on government, escalate the national debt to astronomical levels so that you could justify massive taxation and redistribution of wealth, which leads to complete dependence on the government. And he felt that that would happen in our country. Well, I got to tell you something. He's right, unless we, the people, do something about it. We're the only ones who can change that. And the next time you're singing our national anthem, and I hope you're standing with your hand over your heart when you do it, don't just let those words roll off your tongue. Land of the free and the home of the brave. But think about what they mean. Because if you want to be free, you have to be willing to stand up for what you believe in. Freedom is not free. And you cannot be the land of the free if you're not the home of the brave. Thank you very much.
Now, are we supposed to answer some questions or what?
I think you are.
Thank you, Dr. Carson. We got one quick thing that we're going to do, and then Dr. Carson's going to come back up and take some questions from everybody here. So, as I mentioned earlier, we released back in May what's called the 1776 Pledge to Save Our Schools. And 250 candidates, state and local, around the country have now signed it to take a position and really for this to be a tool for parents to be able to assess their elected officials. I just want to read it to you real quick because we're going to have 9 or 10 candidates. If you're here, please come on up, and they're going to basically commit a promise to their future, to the voters here. It says, as a candidate or current official, I believe the United States is an exceptional nation whose people have always strived to form a more perfect union based on our founding principles. Our founding fathers, including George Washington and Thomas Jefferson, as well as leaders like Abraham Lincoln, Frederick Douglass, and Reverend Martin Luther King Jr., were among the greatest Americans to ever live, and they deserve to be honored as heroes. Our children and grandchildren should be taught to take pride in their country, to respect our founding principles of liberty and equality, and to have a sense of American history that is both truthful and inspiring. Civics education should focus on the serious study of our founding documents and principles, not coerce students into engaging into extracurricular political action on behalf of contemporary political positions. Our young people should be taught to view one another not according to race or gender, but as individuals made in the image of God. And lastly, teaching children to hate their country and each other is immoral and deeply harmful to our society and must be stopped. The candidates that are here, if you want to just come on up, join me up here. So therefore, they pledge to the voters that they will take concrete steps to do the following in our K-12 public schools. Number 1, restore honest, patriotic education that cultivates in our children a profound love for our country. Number 2, promote curriculum that teaches that all children are created equal, have equal moral value under God, our Constitution, and the law, and are members of a national community united by our founding principles. Number 3, prohibit any curriculum that pits students against one another on the basis of race or gender. And 4th, prevent schools from politicizing education by prohibiting any curriculum that requires students to protest and lobby during or after school. So I'm going to leave these up here. I really appreciate everybody taking a clear stance on this. It gives, I think, everybody here, a way to be able to look at you and you know that you've taken a position. So if you each want to just come up, sign it real quick, appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it. Yeah, right? Oh, yeah, maybe say your name.
I hear you. My name is Brenton Hammond. I'm running for the House of Delegates over in District 43, which covers Alexandria, the Fairfax County side, and Lorton. So let's get out and let's get to work.
My name is Steve Pykart. I'm District 50, which is Bristow and Manassas.
Hi, everybody. It's a great rally, right? My name is Bob Frizzell. I'm running for Jim LeMunyon's old seat in Chantilly, District 67.
Good evening. My name is Matt Lang, running in District 36, which is Reston, Herndon, and Vienna.
Hi, I'm Sarah White, and I'm the Greater Falls Church area.
Hi, I'm Julie Perry. I'm actually in a little bit of Chantilly, most of Herndon, and a little bit of Sterling, and I'm actually a teacher here in Northern Virginia myself that's running. Yes, and I'm not happy with what's going on in the schools. Definitely not. What day is it? Sorry. Hey, thanks. Oh!
Don't let him go to that. Don't let him go. Yeah. You got him?
Hello, my name is Maria Martin. I am the candidate for the 52nd District House of Delegates, and I am running for the second time because nothing have changed, and I decided to do it again. And I hope everyone is going to support our campaigns. Thank you, Dr. Carson, for being here and telling what is right.
My name is Scott Pio. You're standing in my district or sitting. Ashburn, Belmont, Lansdowne, Countryside, Moorfield Station. I'm here tonight because I'm fighting for everybody and fighting for you. Gail Wise told me tonight, I need to fight, flee, or suffer. We are suffering in Virginia right now. If you want to do anything, you need to stand up and fight. Every single one of these candidates needs volunteers. If you're not standing up with anyone here, you need to right now. You need to do your work. Stand with us until November. We need help. We cannot walk our districts without you. So please stand up and fight for us. Fight for Virginia. Fight for Lansdowne and all these other districts. Thank you so much.
I got to find a blank one here. My name is Debbie Ash. I'm from Alexandria City, and I'm running for school board in District B.
Give them a round of applause. Thank you, everybody. And with that, we're going to call back up Dr. Carson, who's going to take some questions. We're going to try to fit in as many as we can. So there's going to be some folks. There's going to be some folks with microphones. So just try to get your question in quickly so we can get to a bunch of you. And thank you for coming. And Ian just had a quick message that before we get started.
Thank you again. I'm not good when I'm reading my own writing, so bear with me here. I want to thank all the sponsors, everybody that came out and supported us. HSP Direct, that's hspdirect.com. Fantastic. Alicia set me up with them early on in this. It was a great meeting, best meeting I had. They've been so supportive of our campaign here to take back our schools, and I really appreciate everything they've done. Parents Against Critical Theory, that's stoplcpscrt.com. The Chardonnay Antifa people don't like me, but they really hate Scott. So, Virginia Family Foundation, familyfoundation.org. They are committed to a commonwealth of strong families guided by faith and principled government. Headwaters Media, that's just me, don't worry about that. Virginians for Safe Communities, that's safevapetition.com. They're basically the fight for schools, but for our prosecutors here that don't like to actually prosecute. So they're trying to remove the 3 prosecutors, Arlington, Fairfax, and right here in Loudoun County. I'm on the board there, so let's support them as well. Unsilencedmajority.org, they're fighting cancel culture, doing great work, and proud to be a part of that team as well on their board. Fight Back America Now, that is fightbackamericanow.com, leading the fight to beat radicals and support candidates that support America first. Allegiance Lists, that's allegiancelistmarketing.com, full service PR and marketing campaign servicing, company servicing conservative organizations. The Association of Mature American Citizens, that's amac.us. AMAC represents 2 million Americans over 50 who are committed to constitutional rights. Last thing, I've got some good news and some bad news. The good news is you only have to pay $12 to get in here. The bad news is you've got to click on that QR code on the back of those chairs and pay a lot more to get out of here. No, I'm kidding. But seriously, help support us, help support our fight. We're going to need the resources to keep this going, and we appreciate all that you've done by coming here, and we hope you had a great time.
Okay, I think we're going to have opportunity for some Q&A. Yes, sir.
Dr. Carson, my name is Chris Cloud, and I don't have a question. I have a comment.
Okay.
On 50-something years old, I was not a very good student, and in 1986, I was in summer school in Fauquier County, and a very, very good student who was a dear friend of mine had to go to summer school as well because she missed some school back the previous year because of a brain tumor that she had, and you were up to your wrists in her head as you thanked her.
Thank you. Praise the Lord.
Okay, we have a question over here.
I'm always thrilled when I see and hear about patients. Sometimes I'm on an airplane and somebody will come up to me and say, my parents told me you operated on me when I was a little kid. I just want to thank you. But we were at a banquet one time. This beautiful, statuesque young woman comes up to my wife. And she says, are you Dr. Carson's wife? And she says, yes. And she says, your husband operated on me when I was still in my mother's womb. Oh. And now she's an independent, beautiful young lady. And that's why no one will ever convince me that what is in a woman's uterus is a useless bunch of cells.
We have a question over here, Dr. Carson.
I'm another one, Dr. Carson. I want to thank you on behalf of my family, my brother Paul and his wife Sharon Du Bois in June of '91 had premature twins, and you saved my nephew Jacob's life. He was hydrocephalic. Is that the right way to say it? Hydrocephalic. Yeah. Anyway, and on top of that, well, you put a shunt in, and he thrived. And then I I think 15 years later, he was having shunt failure, and my brother literally carried him into the local emergency room. He was dying, and I think that was in Frederick. And they called you, and you walked them through the operation and saved his life again. So Jacob loves God. He loves America. Here he is as a baby. Here's his high school photo.
Amen.
And now he loves his beautiful wife, Trish. So I know you had something to do with that. So thank you. God bless you.
Thank you. Praise the Lord. And it's all God who does that. He just uses us as instruments if we will allow it.
Dr. Ben, Dr. Stan here. Do you have any insight into why the Republican Party is assigning Biden all the responsibility for all these terrible things that are happening in the world, but assigning it to the Democratic Party?
Well, I think probably some are, but what we really need to concentrate on is what are the right things. We can't just complain about what the wrong things are, but we have to have solutions that make sense, and we have to be able to explain them to people. And it really doesn't matter whether you're Republican or Democrat. What we need to be concentrating on is what makes sense, what's logical. There used to be something in this country called common sense. And it seems to be uncommon right now. And we need to bring it back. That's what will save our country.
Hi, Dr. Carson. I'm Patty Menders. I'm actually the president of the largest Republican women's club in Virginia. And many of my members are here. In fact, that parent panel, they're all members of our club. So I'm one of those that loves to organize and encourage and empower people. How do I keep doing that when we keep hitting wall after wall of people just saying, no, I'm too busy. No, I've got, my family. No, I can't get involved. How do I get them to say, we need you, it's time?
Well, persistence. There's a story in the Bible about a woman who went to a judge, and she couldn't get justice as she saw it, but she kept going, and pretty soon he said, okay, whatever you want. That's what you have to do. You have to be persistent. When people recognize that you're not going to go away, then it becomes easier for them to just submit.
So Dr. Carson, it's a wonderful honor to be in the same room with you. I didn't know about you until you ran for president, but I've watched a lot of interviews and I just really admire how you think. So thank you. And I wanted to ask a question. It's not only to you, but it's to the room. There's one issue that I didn't really hear discussed, which is even if we organize like crazy, how are we going to make sure that our vote is counted? I'm really worried about that.
So. Well, that is a very good question, because there are a lot of irregularities that are simply ignored. That's one of the focuses of the American Cornerstone Institute, voter integrity and how we can ensure it. And there are a lot of things that are going on right now. Glenn Youngkin is working on a process to make sure that the election, the gubernatorial election here, is done the right way. And this is an area where the people can make a difference, because the elections are still governed at the state level. And it really depends a lot on who we put into office and what we require of them. Some of the silly stuff like not requiring that signatures match, not looking at the dates, letting people vote twice or 3 times or however many times they want to. Obviously, these things make no sense whatsoever unless you're trying to cheat. And, we had a situation occur in our country where there's some real questions about what happened. But the powers that be have said, you can't talk about it. It's sort of like you stole the cookies from the cookie jar, then you make a rule that no one can mention the cookie jar. Well, that's what's happening in our country right now. And we all have to be very concerned about it, because it doesn't matter how things are. If we don't fix the election system, it won't matter what we think. This country will no longer be about the people. So thank you for bringing that up.
Hello. I wanted to say that, first of all, I used to tutor students, like with SAT prep and sciences and stuff. But I also had daughters of my own, and one of whom was, as a very young girl, wanted to become a doctor. And when she was in about 4th grade, but we were a very working class family. And she read your book, and it made a huge impact on her. And she's now in her 5th year of residency. And you're a big inspiration to her. And what I wanted to say is also that there's a lot of, I don't want to mention her, I mean, there's a lot of young doctors that have gone through this stuff, and with the AMA coming out with statements, in the American Psychiatric Association, the American Pediatric. In fact, when she was in med school in St. Louis, I know a lot of kids didn't want to go into pediatrics as a specialty because they didn't really like dealing with the parents who wanted to change the sex of their kids, or you were put in a position where you weren't really encouraged to give your patient what was best. You were to go with the party line. And I'm sure you know this, but there's a lot of young doctors then out there who sort of are muzzled in a certain, or you know what I mean, I'd probably should kill me for even doing this, but I mean, it's a difficult situation. I think when people, we do need to, I wanted to emphasize the importance of fighting at this level, because if you let this go on, by the time they get to colleges or professional things, even if they think it's all crap, they can't, I shouldn't say, I mean, my daughter didn't say that, but you know what I mean,
No, it's a problem.
They can lose their job, they can lose everything that they fought for all their lives.
It's in the school systems, it's in the books, even with the very young children. They start them reading this book about worms, and how the worm can be a male or female, and it can change, and how that's a good thing. And it's the kind of thing that the Bible tells us is going to happen at some point. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't resist it. It's child abuse once again, because children are not ready to make those decisions. The brain does not finish developing until your mid to late 20s. And there's no way that a child is ready to make that kind of decision. Children are curious. So, little boy may try on his mother's high heels. That doesn't mean that he wants to be a girl. A little girl may put on her father's tool belt. That doesn't mean that she wants to be a boy. But if you sit there and tell them, that means you want to be a boy, all of a sudden you're putting doubts in their mind. And, why would we do that to our children? Of course the psychiatric admissions go up because we're making them crazy. Okay. Now, I have time for one more question here and one more question here. So you guys can fight it out. Okay.
Hello, my name is Austin Riddell, and I think I have a pretty good question. When I grow up in 2052, I'm going to be running for political office. Is there any advice that you have for me?
Very good, young man. I'll tell you what's so vitally important. Just tell the truth all the time, because if you always tell the truth, you don't have to try to remember what you said 3 months ago. It makes your life very, very smooth.
Oh, I have the distinct pleasure of going after that, so I don't know how you top that. Dr. Carson, my name is Elizabeth Schultz. I served on the Fairfax County School Board for 8 years and in the U.S. Department of Education under President Trump as the Deputy Director of Educational Technology. And what I have to say, we had some very brave candidates come up here and sign a pledge. But there's nobody, I think, that's maybe more brave than your mother. If people don't know your story, haven't read your book, haven't seen the movie about your life, the ability to have courage, and we are in a real state of turmoil. Not in Loudoun, not in Fairfax, not in Virginia, but as a nation. As parents, we fear for our children and their future. But I think that maybe your mother experienced the fear that a lot of moms and dads have now, and she overcame it. So my question to you is, what can you say to people to have, the courage of a Tanner Cross, to have a courage of many of the parents that are standing up to their school boards, to be able to either get behind a candidate and support them, say something to their neighbor, say something in line at the grocery store, run for office themselves, to have that courage because the assault is coming. You lived the assault. You're in the last administration, as did the president, as did many of us who came into elected office before. Please encourage us with words about courage, because this is an assault on our culture and the assault of the future of our children.
Well, thank you. We're at a crossroads in our country right now. Which way are we going to go? Is this going to be America, the ideal of liberty and justice for all? Or are we going to go the equity route? Everybody should have the same outcome. And we are the ones who are going to make that decision. And it's not going to come smoothly. It's going to come with some strife because there are many others on the other side. And they're not necessarily charitable people. Remember, our Judeo-Christian faith tells us to love your neighbor. Their faith tells them to cancel your neighbor if they don't agree with you. So that means you're going to have some strife, you're going to have some discomfort when you stand up for what you truly believe in. But I always look at it against the backdrop of eternity. And against the backdrop of eternity, whatever you suffer in this life is nothing compared to the joy that awaits us in the salvation through Jesus Christ. Thank you so much.